Note to self, anytime you post something on Facebook about a sermon that you're going to be preaching that you think is all stirred up and that God has stirred within your soul, people are going to want to know what that sermon's about, and they're going to want a sneak peek. So anyway, to appease all of those who have asked me for a little sneak peek, here you go. How many of you guys want to see the glory of God? I want to see the glory of God. I want to see the glory of God fall upon me in the most amazing way. And because of that very thing, I seek every single day for the glory of God. I say, God, let it be you and not me. I want the passion of Peter and the power of Paul to fall on my life, to fall on you all. I want to see God do what only God can do so that others will see and know, God, that was you. But how do we see the glory of God in this way? The disciples, they went to Jerusalem and they prayed and they praised and they waited for the Holy Spirit to fall. And then on the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit fell in such a way that the glory of God was seen and 3,000 souls were saved. How do we see the glory of God in that very same way? Well, here's your sneak peek. Tonight, we went down to the church, me and my little girl. The praise band was practicing and getting ready for Sunday. And as they're practicing, getting ready for Sunday, they began preparing one of the songs they're going to be singing, I Will Trust in You by Lauren Daigle, which just so happens to be my daughter's all-time favorite song by my daughter's all-time favorite music artist. She dreams of the day in which she will meet Lauren Daigle. By the way, if you could get a word out to Lauren, that would be great. She would love to meet her someday. But anyway, as they're singing this song, my daughter goes up to the altar and she starts singing with them. Not just singing, but I mean all out crying out to God. I've never seen anyone worship so completely as this 7-year-old girl, as she just starts screaming at the top of her lungs with all of her heart, crying out to God, saying, though you don't move the mountains, I needed you to move. Though you don't part the waters so I could walk through. Though you don't give the answers as I cry out to you. And then they get to the greatest part of all, and my daughter starts shouting out and banging her head and lifting her hands and pointing in the air and saying, I will trust, I will trust in you. And my heart was just filled and exploding because I realized this little girl got it. My anointed 7-year-old daughter, she got it. We've been talking for several weeks about what it means to trust in the God, in the God that made us, the God that created us, the one who breathed life into us, and to trust that He knows our plans and He will carry us through everything. Well, as she's singing this song, I'm thinking back to all the things I've been studying about the glory of God and how the glory of God falls upon us when we trust in Him. See, that's the key. You got to trust in Him. You got to trust in Him. In order to have the passion of Paul and the power of Peter, you've got to trust in Him. God doesn't always move the mountains we want Him to move. He doesn't always do what we want Him to do. You know, He's not some star up in the sky that we wish upon at night. He's not some genie in a bottle ready to meet our every command. He is the God of heaven and earth. He's the great I am. And He can do anything. He can do anything. But He doesn't always do everything we ask. Why? Because He knows what we need. Before we ever even ask, He knows exactly what we need. His ways are not our ways. They're higher, you see. So why doesn't God always move the mountains for you and me? This is just a tad bit, okay? It's because at the top of the mountain, that's where the glory of God is found. You see, if God were to move the mountains in our life every single time we ask, then we would miss the journey to the top. And as we miss the journey to the top, we might miss the ragged, the jagged rocks. We might miss the snakes along the way. We might miss those painful things. But we also miss the things that teach us to trust in God. You see, because it's in the journey to the top where we see God with us. We see God's presence upon us. We see God holding our hands and leading us along the way. When we get to the top of that mountain, he will say, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant," and he will show us his glory. The disciples didn't just show up on the day of Pentecost and the Spirit fall. They had been through some mountains. They had been through some journeys, and they had learned to trust in Jesus, to trust in him enough to go and sit and wait in that place until the Spirit fell. They had seen Jesus crucified. They'd seen him laid in a tomb, and then they saw him rise. They had been through some things, some dark, dark nights. But you see, it was the journey that took them to God's glory and taught them to trust in the God who saves. And that's how they were able to see God's glory on Pentecost, on that very holy day. God didn't move all their mountains out of the way. They still had many mountains to face. But they saw the glory of God every single day because they were willing to climb the mountain and let Jesus lead the way. And God doesn't always part the seas. He did for the Israelites so that they could be free, but God doesn't always work that way. Sometimes God doesn't part the seas because then we can't see his glory when he calms the storms. We can't see his glory when he calls to us to walk on the water to him so we can see what he can do through us. The point is this. Even though God doesn't move your mountains, even though God doesn't part your seas, even though God doesn't speak when you cry out to him, know that he's leading you. He is with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you, for he has carved you in the palm of his hands. And today, he wants you to understand his plans. And it's not to leave you forsaken in the wilderness, but it's to provide you with everything you need and to teach you in the journey as you climb that mountain, as you cross that sea, to just trust and believe. That's how you're going to see his glory. Put God in the center of it all. Don't leave him at the base of the mountain, but let him take you up so that you will not stumble, you will not fall, and when you get to the top, you'll see what it was all about. And I want to see God's glory. I want to see his glory fall in such a way that every single day I seek his face and I experience the same thing they experienced on Pentecost. And I believe that we will, when we come to a place where we can just lift our hands and say, like that little girl did today, I will trust in you. Though you don't move the mountains, I wanted you to move. Though you don't part the waters, I wanted to walk through. Though you don't give the answers when I cry out to you, I will trust in you because I know that you are with me. You have journeyed with me and you have never left me. Now, hey, that's just a tidbit. I'm not going to give the rest away because then you wouldn't have a reason to come and worship with us on Sunday. You know, I'm not giving this preview just so that you could come and worship with us on Sunday, because chances are it'll probably change between now and then to some degree. And this is only a small preview, you see. What I really want is to give you a reason to believe. I don't want to just bring you to church. I want to bring you to Jesus. We've all got mountains in our life. We've all got storms that we fight. We've all got raging waters around us at times. But the glory of God is in those things. The glory of God can be seen through those things. And the Spirit of God can pour out upon you in the midst of whatever you go through, if you'll wait and pray and never cease to give God praise, trust in Him today. Let Him climb that mountain with you. Let Him calm those storms for you. Let Him show you what He's going to do when you trust. When you say, God, I will trust in you. Not because you're a genie in a bottle, not because you're a star I wish upon, because you are the God of all. The King of kings and the Lord of lords, and it is in you I call. So, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. And that path will lead to the top where you will see God's glory. Somehow, some way, trust Him today. God bless you.